everyone. I'm in the right room. I do have a tendency sometimes to use my other account, but welcome to your Womanhood Wisdom Wednesday. I'm whispering and I don't even know why. But join us in this talk. I'm inviting some of you beautiful souls who are always here sharing, commenting, adding value to the conversations that we have. You may think that it's me who is doing the giving, but it's also you, and that's why I like to have these two-way conversations as well. So come on in the room. 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 Yep. Calling forth those old spirits. Let's see. Who has space today? Who's ready? I'm inviting. If it looks funny on your end, this is what I'm doing on my end. I think it requires that we do this, maybe. I'm not sure. Who is the first person in the room, by the way? Some folks I missed too, that I haven't seen in a while. So I'm just sending Laura, hey y'all, how you doing? I'm still inviting folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I feel like giving a reading. I feel like the energy of a reading. So Nina, you're the first person in the room. So I invite you to get in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, the question, what is it that I need to know? Get that question in your spirit, and I'll ask and pull on your behalf as people join us this afternoon. Hopefully my signal is coming in pretty clear. All right. Oh, thank you. You say I look beautiful a lot. All right now. Thank you, honey. I'm actually covering up some kind of little breakout I had and little challenges that I've had over here. So actually there may be space as people continue to join us in the room. Thank you for coming on in and joining us. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Still inviting. I was getting ready to do something like that. Okay. All right. So Nina, did you get in your spirit what it is that you may need to know from the universe? Let me know and confirm that I have permission to pull for you. Before we get into today's talk, I'm going to just do a few readings for those of you who came right on in with me early today. And it looks like the next person that was in the room was Vivian. Is that right? Remember, Facebook does not always share with me everybody who's watching. So it looks like it is Nina and Vivian. And so, Vivian, what I said is get into, ask the question, what is it that you need to know? You know, what is the spirit? What is Spirit's message to you? If you'd like for me to pull for you, just confirm in the comments the same way that Nina did. And we're going to move forward in just a moment. It's been a busy morning. I know we're getting ready to go into a Mercury retrograde, but Lord knows I don't feel any retrograde energy. I only feel forward motion. So I'm going to pull this card for you before we get into our talk today. Oh, you're in the, yeah. Hey, honey, you said you were inviting sisters. Okay, now. You said you're going to be in for a minute. Well, are you going to be here long enough? If you want me to pull for you, if not, I'll go to Antoinette, who looks like she was the next person in. Vanessa was in the room? Oh, okay. Facebook didn't show me. Vanessa, if you're here next, let me know, and I'll pull for you. So I'm going to start with Nina, because that's the first energy, and I have permission to pull what the universe is asking for her right now. Ha! You're going to love this. Nina, you're going to love this. Power of my voice. Power of my voice. Speak, the card says, I speak my truth and express my feelings to others with care and compassion. Can you see her? Can you see her? So, let me see what the message is for you. Does that resonate for you? I think it does, but I'm cheating a little bit because of you know why. All right. And the message is, my inner sanctuary is a place that is both holy and holy. H-O-L-E-Y and W-H-O-L-L-Y, within the center of my being. I visit here throughout my day. Whenever I want to connect to stillness, inner quietude, and comfort, or when I want to savor gratitude for things that bring me happiness. Oh, wait a minute. Make sure I'm right. Oh, no. I'm reading the wrong one. Child. I got so excited. Oh, no, I'm on the right one. I'm on the right one. No, I'm not. I got the numbers mixed up. Sorry. Okay. Now this makes sense. It didn't sound right at first. Okay. But yes. Power of my voice is correct. I use my voice to express my truth and inner authority. I courageously speak my feelings to others. My courageous expression is tempered with the wisdom and warmth of compassion. And I share my truth in kindness and sensitivity. My voice is a beautiful instrument. We can't make this stuff up. Nina. It says, my voice is a beautiful instrument. It has the power to soothe, to heal old wounds, and to build bridges between people. My voice can even connect me to the flow of grace through prayer, affirmation, and song. What I say matters. I honor the power of my voice. My positive words help attune me to a higher frequency of creative energy. Girl. What? All right, now we're going to, and hopefully we'll get a chance to hear your voice and use your voice today. So the next person I'm going to you say, wow. I know that's a wow moment. I'm glad you had a chance to witness it. So I can tell already that Facebook is not really letting me know who's in the room. So if you're in the room, just say hi when you come in, even though it'll be delayed. At least I'll know who's here because it's not giving me true numbers. Yes, oh Holy Spirit. What? Girl, if this work, if people don't know that this work is real, the only thing is you all got to tell them. All right, so I'm going to go with Vivian. I think she said she was going to be next, and then I'm going to do Vanessa. So let's just consider this an icebreaker before we go into the conversation today and the offering that may come out of our talk today. So now I'm pulling on behalf of Vivian. She's already given me permission, and I think, let me see, Vanessa, I think you gave me permission. Okay, yep. All right, here we go. So, Vivian, you've asked what it is you need to know. I hope. And the universe says boundaries. You need to know boundaries. My clear boundaries allow me to protect myself, nurture my intentions, and follow my true self. Did it land where it needed to land? And if it didn't, let's see. My boundaries are like energy doors that help me manage my life. At times, I keep the doors open, inviting in blessings from others and my environment. At other times, I close the doors to nourish my own creativity, energy, and well-being. I feel good about having boundaries and for being able to say no thanks, for I know that by saying no, I am saying yes to something else, something that's more important for my growth, healing, and enlivenment. Having clear boundaries allows me to protect myself, nurture my intentions, and follow my true self. Boundaries are an essential part of my self-care and self-love. Did that land for you? What does that mean for you, my love? Nina, you didn't say what it meant for you, but we know it meant something with your oh wow and Holy Spirit. And of course, you know, others are watching, so I know what it means for you. You know what it means for you. But if you don't mind sharing, Nina, how it landed for you, because I don't know, even though, you know, you're in a process today, it may have a different meaning for you. And same thing with you, Vivian. Please share how. Did I show you I showed you the card, or did I not show you the card? Well, I've mixed it up now. Oh, nope, here it is. Here's your card. Okay. All right. So now, let's go for Vanessa. What do you need to know? What do you need to? We're just doing a little icebreaker if you're just joining before we start this conversation about our girls. At least we think it's about our girls. And I'm not leaving out those of you who have sons, because the same can apply in many ways to our sons. So I'm asking for Vanessa. What does Vanessa need to know? And the universe says, savoring the positive. I allow myself to the spaciousness of savoring the delicious gifts in my life. That's your affirmation. I allow myself the spaciousness of savoring the delicious gifts in my life. It's interesting that most of you all chose something with birds. With birds. That gives me an indication of freedom is calling in many ways. Savoring the positive, right? I slow down and savor the positive experiences in my life. I purposely dwell on cherished events and people around me. Savoring the positive allows me to enjoy the moment and accept the delicious gifts that are in my life right now. Prolonging my attention on feelings and sensations connected to heartfelt memories, acts of kindness, and loving encounters, no matter how big or small, strengthens my capacity to embed them within my psyche. Over time, the practice of savoring the positive builds my emotional resilience, providing a foundation of strength that will support me during stressful times. All right now, what does that mean to you, Vanessa? What do these things mean to you? So Vivian says, been making excuses, but I hear boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Okay? And you said, I'm working on my self-care as it pertains to my eating. I need boundaries, but haven't done so. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. And Nina, I'm waiting on you to share. And Vanessa, Vanessa says, great, because a lot of change is happening. Okay? All right now. So let's talk about it today. Let me tell you, a lot of times, you know, I love the verse in the Quran that says, we plan a plan and God plans a plan and God is the best planner. Because I do have, planned talks based off of what I'm delivering and contributing in the world. And I also pay attention to what's showing up. And so what has been showing up is so many women who have been coming forth. And this mother-daughter thing is really strong in the atmosphere. It's starting to populate in the hearts and minds of many women. And I was in a conversation with someone very dear to me. My godchild is acting out. Before that, I had a moment where I felt the spirit. I came into I came into this work very, very clear that I was a teacher. I am a teacher. And before that, though, I actually was teaching in schools. I was, teaching your babies. They're probably, most of them are grown now. And I love that. And so recently I had this feeling come up like I need to be teaching the babies again. Like I need to be around them again. When I'm working, hey love, good to see you. When I'm working with my boys, I feel the spirit of that teacher come up. And both my husband and I have this energy around teaching. And he's an excellent teacher, especially with them, because he learned things differently and he has another way of delivering it, which is powerful to witness the masculine and the feminine when both of us are working with the boys together. And so even while I ordained minister, knew I was a coach, doing training, counseling, all of the certifications, the healing work, and that type of thing over the years, before I went 100%, I always had a job that led me to youth, or some way I was working with young people. So, and I'm talking about most of my public, because my specialty out in the world is public and private partnerships in business and operations and that type of thing. And so I also did quite a bit of work around facilitating and teaching and that type of thing around job development. And so I have had an opportunity to really hear the uncensored truth around a lot of children and their relationships with their parents. Of course, being, all of us have been a child myself, so this conversation does not leave anyone out, even if you don't have children. And that is why I said our children, not your daughters, or our daughters, our girls, not just your daughters, not just your girls, because that is the first place where we get to shift. We get to shift this idea of possession. First of all, that is, I really do believe that is driving some of the marriage breakdowns that we're having, because we come from this place of the slave master where we still think that we are designed to possess something. And if you know anything about the history of marriage, it is about property rights and land rights when it comes to traditional marriage. You can check in your Bible, honey. This is where we get dowries. And so we take that same mindset, and over time, we start to look at the children as though they belong to us personally and individually. And so now we have parents who are overcompensating with giving things to their children, because the thing that we say is, well, I don't want my children to go through what I've gone through. And I was just telling my dear friend, my sister, regarding my niece, I said, she hasn't had to struggle. She's a privileged child, so she doesn't know struggle. So she wanted her to understand that things don't just come to you, and that I said, but things have just come to her. And so she wanted her to be able to navigate life. And she's afraid that she can't navigate life. And so and this has been a theme that I have seen come up in many of the conversations that I've had, either in sessions or in community. And I want to ask mamas, what is driving you? What's driving you to leave a legacy? What legacy are you leaving? Because are you leaving your material things? Meaning they'll have property, they may have a trust fund, they may have a savings, whatever it is. What is driving you? Because a lot of times when I'm talking to women, when you all come to me, a lot of times you think that your life is not working because of the material things. I was just talking to another person who was telling me what was missing. She made a decision to get married because what was missing? There was no man in her life, no companionship in her life, and so she made a decision not based on her heart, not based on compatibility, but based off of what was missing, and felt like I need to give this experience. In her case, it was, let's just say it was to her child. And how many of you are making decisions like that and find yourself in the grind and in the hustle to maintain the lifestyle that you in some way are driven to believe that you have to give to your children, when some of them only want you? But they can't get to you because there's so much stuff going on around you. And not only that, how many of you are being honest about who you are and how you got to be who you are? Because sometimes we try to give the children the perfect version of who we are. We try to give the unblemished edition of who we are and expect them to have that and to know that and to demonstrate that in the world. But isn't it interesting that these millennials they're requiring another level of authenticity in order for them to even be able to hear from us, in order for them to even be able to respect us or to hear from us. Can y'all hear me okay? I just realized I had the headphones plugged in. Can y'all hear me okay? In order for them to be able to respect us and even hear from us, it's not the same thing. One of the things that we were talking about, whereas we may have had to travel to things, to experiences, we may have had to let's just give it, I grew up in the South, right? And so if there were certain styles that were popping off in New York, which New York is known to be a trendsetter. And so because New York is a trendsetter, because in the South, certain television programs didn't even come on down South. And so it would take your cousins coming down South to visit sometimes for a trend to even take place. But now our children are able to log on to Snapchat. They're able to log on to Instagram, and instantly they are able to be in touch with anything instantly. And so there is no time gap. There is no requirement to travel. They get exposed to anything quickly. Now, of course, that does work for us in some ways, but what about their maturity level? Some of you have given birth to children who are your test and later will be your testimony, because they're calling you out on some of your BS and you don't like it. And so some of us take it as an affront when the child begins to buck up. Now, some of you already know that the children are going to buck up, and you try to be open and keep the communication open. But what is driving us that we have placed in the seat of who we really are? Like many of us, when I'm talking and I ask women, what do you see for yourself? And you start to talk about what you see for your children. But you can hold a vision for your child, but you can hold the vision for them and speak into their life. But everybody has to have their own vision. And so where do you fall on the scale of priority? Of course, I talk to mothers who are taking care of their grown children, and I understand that we also have a contradictory message in our community. When we look at our relationship with money, for instance, When we look at our relationship with money, when I asked that question, what legacy are you leaving? How many of you thought that it was just money? How many of you thought that it was just money? Even though money is a conversation that we need to have. I'm waiting for you to respond. When I ask the question, what legacy are we leaving our girls? And I start with our. They don't belong to just you. And that is why so many of you are exhausted and tired and worn out and burning both ends of the candle, because they belong to you. And so the community is not involved in raising your children. Why? Because we've been programmed to think that we can't trust. We can't trust anyone to raise our children. But you see, when my mother raised me, when my father left the house, I had to get up early in the morning to go get ready to go to work. Well, she had to go to work early. So what that meant that either I had to ride with a relative to my school or go into town so that I could walk to school or be driven from that point on. In other words, it was an exchange. She had a part to play. Other people had a part to play. And then there was a whole part to play after school. And somehow we have bought into this individualism as though we are not community. So the first point of stress for most of us is we're carrying these things all by ourselves. We're trying to be super sheroes, not asking for help. And so finances sometimes is the first place that we go. But I want to know, how many of you thought when we said, what legacy are we leaving our girls? How many of you started with just the money? Now, those of you who are investing in cryptocurrency and gold, this is an awesome place to refine your conversation, right? We've already had the talk in here about this process that we're working in the She Magic, in the Succulent Success team, about being able to pay yourself first. And check this out. Even if it was money that you are leaving for your children, the one of the Robert Kiyosaki says the first habit of the rich is that they pay themselves first. So if you must, hey love, thank you for saying hello to you lovelies who just came in. Even if it is about money, the first rule of the rich is pay yourself first. But many of us, when I talk to you, you're worried. You're anxious about paying bills. You're anxious and judging yourself if you've fallen short. Lord knows if you have to file for bankruptcy. We're the only people, the only race of people who tend to go into severe depression because of what we think people think about us when it comes to our finances and the material things. So many of us, we look good but we'll be broke. And we are driven to make sure that our children have these things, but they don't have you. And then there's this cycle. I don't understand why they're acting like this. I don't understand. I give them so much. Nina says, I trust that I'm leaving them a legacy of standing up for themselves, speaking up for themselves, investing in themselves, living the love that I have to give. Thank you. Thank you. I really am asking a question, y'all. I'm asking a question because I want you to answer and participate in this conversation. I'm not coming to tell you. I'm giving some nuggets, but some of you have raised your children. You have lessons that you can reflect on. You can see where you may have made some errors, where you were unconscious. Let me ask you a question. Are you able to leave a legacy to your children of forgiveness? Are you able to? Kathy says, okay, let me get up off the floor. They have the things, but not me. I appreciate you in this room today for being able to say that, because you are speaking for many women who will not tell the truth. So let me ask you, will your children, your girls, inherit the legacy of forgiveness? Being able to acknowledge when I have made an error or a mistake, that I can go to someone and ask for forgiveness and offer forgiveness when I have been offended. Do they have that legacy? I can say that I have that legacy. My mother, even though I experienced, especially for an empath, do you even know what your gifts, the spiritual gifts of your girls are? Even if you have 5, 6 children, each one of them is going to have a different blueprint or experience in the world. I ask about our girls because I know that mother and daughter relationships are in trouble. And it's been in trouble for a long time. We have an issue on this planet with dishonoring the mother. The mother has been dishonored since oh gosh. When you study the history of women and women who have been burned at the stake for being free, it began because matriarchy is not new. Women who were leading the world, that's not new. But somewhere we became disabled in our view of ourselves, where we started to hear from institutions that there was a certain order of events that used to happen. There was a time when we spoke to our womb and we would determine what sex we were bringing forth. Not only that, we would choose our mates, even if they were different mates. So have you all ever considered that this whole thing around single motherhood is propaganda? Have you ever considered that it's propaganda, that you have been kicking your own ass around the propaganda of feeling like they're missing something? The universe abhors a void. That's universal law. The universe abhors a void. But when you believe that there's a void in your life, how have you tried to overcompensate to fill the perception of the void? Let me ask you another question. Are you leaving a legacy of personal growth and development? Because from what I have heard from employers in my work out in job development is the millennials are a nightmare to manage. And I've had to manage some millennials in my other life as a career. And you can't hardly tell them anything. But they didn't create themselves. Where did they get that from? You know, I remember when Steve Harvey was talking about pretty much Generation X. Now, many of you put an X in the comments if you are Generation X. Put an X in the comments if you are Generation X. I think that most of you are Generation X. I don't think I have many baby boomers because before Generation X is the generation, the baby boomers. And then I believe there's Generation Y and the millennials, right? Okay. X generation, got one Generation X. Come on, keep them coming. Put the X's in here who are Generation X. But Steve Harvey, who is kind of more the baby boomer, and he talked about one time, he said, we created this generation, talking more about X or kind of like X. Where we started, he said, we wanted to be middle class. And so we started to work and to acquire things and status. And so you have now these latchkey kids, the latchkey kids who are raising themselves. And so those are the ones who now, very smart Generation X. You know, I'm a Generation Xer. And Generation X has its own personality, but then Generation X created what we're seeing for Generation Y and millennials. So when we criticize the millennials, we're talking about ourselves. We're talking about the unhealed aspects of ourselves. Keep the X's coming. I want to see who is Generation X in the room. And what's important is oftentimes we look at things as though they are separate events, when they really are not separate events. The idea of separation comes from the ego, easing God out. Ego. The ego's job always is to separate. And so when we start to look at it's them, instead of looking at how they are a reflection of you, and teaching them the lessons that you have learned in your transparency. Our girls are in trouble. Our girls are more aggressive. They are fighting. They're exposed to reality television where women are being physical with one another. And so now when it comes to their behavior, there's no moral compass about which way to go. And so you have a generation of young people wearing wigs. Do you all remember? Is it just me? Do you all remember when wigs were for old people? Y'all remember that? Do y'all remember when wigs were for old people? Come on now, tell me who else is Generation X in the room. Some of you may not know which one you're in, and you may be Generation Y. And now just look at the girls. The girls are around here wearing wigs, full wigs. Not just weaves, because Generation X, we prepared the way for the wigs. Because we start getting our little weaves. Well, not me, not too much. I did a couple of weaves, but I swear that, like, it's no hair added up in here. So therefore, this hair has always been too thick. And when I would put something on my head, the idea attracts. But I've definitely done other things, right? But now, look at the girls being influenced by reality stars and video vixens, more so reality, quote unquote, where they have a makeup artist prepare them for the scene. Well, let's talk about sex. We talked a little bit about money. There's probably some more that we could talk about. And I'm talking about this because you know what? There is some shame in our community of mothers. Mothers who are struggling with raising their girls. Mothers who are disconnected from their mothers. Because you haven't healed the heartbreak from your mother, the toxic relationship from your mother, the pressure that was put on you with your mother. And so now you get a girl. And I'm talking about girls because girls are still girlhood, womanhood is still under attack. Even though the planet is awakening and shifting, and women are coming forth and finding their voice and causing an evolution, we have to understand that there are still certain cultures where women are considered second-class citizens. There are still cultures where women have to marry in order to live and survive. There are still cultures where there are young girls who are getting pregnant in other global societies, and they get pregnant and they can't take care of their children. Their fathers will sell them to the highest bidder. Yes, in 2018, it's happening in Latin America. There are things that are happening with women where their clitorises are being cut in other countries. Yes, there are women who are selling themselves to survive. We have to understand that womanhood is not just about the things. It's not just about your house and your picket fence in Western culture. So when I have this conversation, I want you to elevate how you have even thought about your own survival. And some of us have been in survival mode and made so many decisions around survival that we have not looked at what they're inheriting, because we haven't looked at what we've inherited from our mothers. That's toxic. That's unhealthy. Y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? And so you don't have to do everything alone. Right now, when do you all remember the phase when you could not stand your mother? Do you remember that phase? Anything she said was wrong. It went in one ear and out of the other. Do you all remember that phase? That is the time and the reason why having aunties and godmothers and tribe mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers who are active in contribution to the lives. But let's talk about this. There are still women who say they don't trust women. So therefore, they are not going to trust their secrets, their pain with other women. And they think that it's about other women. But it really is about not being able to trust yourself because of your wound, your mother wound often. Now, if it seems like I'm all over the place, does it seem like that? Because I do want us to, we've touched on money, little bit about sexuality. That's a loaded one, this sexuality thing. It's loaded. We could just do one live on the sexuality. Some of you are still healing around your sexuality, true? Right? Some of you are still healing around the sexuality. And the stories, the Me Too stories that you live with. But let me see what some of your comments are. Dawn said, I listened to my godmother over my mother. Keela said, I still experience that phase from time to time. My mom getting on my nerves. Well, we all do. Nina says, that makes me so sad to hear women say that. I think she's talking about, I don't deal with women. That comment, I don't deal with women. I don't trust women. I don't fool with a whole lot of women, that type of thing. And this is the legacy that some of our girls are inheriting, that women don't get along, that they can't, they can't be trusted. So when it comes to this, when women do that, then they develop relationships with men and they haven't developed a relationship with their own womanhood. Right? And so how are they navigating their sensuality and their sexuality? Do you know that just like you, there are some of you who were born with a certain goddess gift or assignment that is supposed to be nurtured a certain way. And just because you were born to the embodiment of one mother does not mean that it's not someone else that is designed to nurture you and your gifts. And this is what sisterhood does. It creates a unit because, I say this all the time. Some of us don't even know how to keep the counsel of other women. You know, how many of you have ever had an experience where you share something with a girlfriend and she goes to tell her husband or her boyfriend? It wasn't his business. There are certain things that are sacred around women that you don't share about another woman with your man. Or is that just me being old school? Is that just me? That's not a value anymore? That's not a value that we hold on to? Okay, because who's going to teach the girls that? These girls are, when they get pissed off, they're taking the pictures of text messages and now it's popular to do clapbacks, right? There are girls who are having the sex via the DM. You know, the song says it goes down in the DM. You know what they're talking about goes down in the DM? Do y'all know? I know some of y'all know because y'all be having it popping in your own DMs. Tell the truth. But then if you gonna get mad when your girl shows up and you find out that she's been showing body parts? Come on, y'all. My point is we can't be hypocrites. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect though. Right? So when it comes to the sensuality and the sexuality, I think my whole point for all of this is to encourage you to do your work. Your work is a part of the legacy that you leave. The work that you're doing, the development, the opening, the liberation. Are you passing on more bondage to your girls? Or are you passing on liberation? And quite frankly, does the idea of having a liberated girl scare you a little bit? I know for a fact that it is scaring some of the mothers who are raising 16, 17, and 18-year-olds right now. I know for a fact that there are mothers who are dealing with some of their girls who are not tamed. They're not as domesticated as you were. And that scares you sometimes in your parenting. So I want to encourage you. Is there anyone who wants to share, who hasn't shared in a long time, who would like to come on? Because I'm kind of putting out a clarion call. Even as you get your financial affairs in order, some of you are healing some of your own sensuality blocks and sexuality blocks, and judgments that you've made around your sexuality and your sexual desires. And the love issue, the condition of the heart, sometimes is minimized. It's minimized the internal work being a part of the legacy. The internal work is not oftentimes considered a part of the inheritance. But if all you have to do is look at what you have inherited, what have you inherited from your mother? And many of you weren't aware consciously of the things that you inherited until you started doing some of this feminine intelligence work that we do together. Some of you were not aware. Am I lying on you? How many of you have daughters? Put a D in the comments if you have daughters. Keela says, it makes me want to reach out to your nieces. How old are your nieces? That's important. Vivian says, I'm encouraging liberation for my daughter, but she's in late 20s. That's good. I want to give you something before I leave, before I sign off, that each woman in here can do, whether you are a biological mother or not. I'm going through the comments. Carol said, it's a value. I once went to my aunt and she told her husband. I was upset and expressed to her I didn't like her telling him. Those are things we do have to own, where we have broken the confidence of other women. Janae says, I feel sad when I hear women say that as well. I love my relationships with women. I have so many mothers in my life as well. Okay. All right. Carol has a daughter. Keela. Oh, okay. I got you for your nieces. Those are your daughters too, even though they're your nieces. Aunts are just second mothers. Dawn has a daughter. Vivian has a daughter. And, you know, our children, the millennials, a lot of them don't have conflict resolution skills either, because their mind is computerized. And so many of them think about relationships the way that they think about technology. Cut you off, block you, clap back. And so they don't have conflict resolution skills. Who's teaching them that? Who's teaching them how to be able to navigate when there's a conflict? that there doesn't have to be that you can actually disagree without there being a fallout or there having to be a physical fight. How many of us are teaching that? Ayana says, hello goddesses, I'm leaving the legacy of freedom of thought for my 14-year-old daughter. Free thinker. All right. And how did you get there? But here's what I want to close out on. When I think about the money, I'm going to leave you with 3 points. When I think about the money, I've already said with money, it's interesting that Robert Kiyosaki, not interesting, but it's absolutely principle that Robert Kiyosaki says that the first habit of the rich is to pay themselves first. Therefore, ladies, if you have been falling as a low priority on your list, you must put on your own oxygen mask first financially. Some of you who are in the gold savings program, the cryptocurrency, a lot of times we have magical thinking. We want something to rescue us. We want someone to share in the responsibility because in some ways we don't think that we can handle it. And so financially we have a lack consciousness that shows up even in our achievements. And so when it comes to the cryptocurrency and the gold, it's a re-education process that I'm witnessing with many of us. And we're creating new legacies, one, through financial education. And it's not the traditional financial education, because some of us have been getting financial education where it's just about budgeting. But I tend to like to listen to those who are a little bit more rebellious about it and give you some shortcuts. That's why I love Robert Kiyosaki and him challenging the status quo around saving. That's more of a nickel and dime way to protect your wealth. It is a way, but there are some other options. The second point, when it comes to our sexuality is a part of our economy. Our sexuality is a part of our agency, because if our sexuality has been condemned, shamed, and guilted, your fear-based consciousness around sexuality will be an inheritance for your daughter. You're like, well, what do I do? Do I tell my daughter to go out and just have sex and do whatever she wants to? It doesn't matter whether you tell her or not. How many of you all know, especially if you've been a good girl, a preacher's kid, or somebody who's followed all of the rules, appear to follow all of the rules, you still did what you wanted to do. Even if you quote unquote knew it was wrong, whatever the messaging was in your household. And when it comes to love and matters of the heart, that's the soft skills that are needed to navigate a hard world. Because emotionally, many of us are still emotionally immature. We are little girls ourselves in grown women's bodies. And now we have taken on the responsibility of life, but emotionally, we still have an adolescent relationship with our heart. We have an adolescent relationship with our womb. We have an adolescent relationship with our money. And I'm not saying that you got to grow up, because any phase of your life that you skipped, that you avoided, or that you had to override, you will revisit it again. This is classic psychology 101. There are age stages of development that allows you every 7 years to experience yourself in a certain way. If you experience any type of trauma during those age stages, it was an interrupted part of your human development. So therefore, yes, you may have parented 6 children, 3 children, but you on the inside may have had to grow up really quickly. And there's still something that's left on the table. And so do we sit at the table and eat what it is that we need, what we avoided, were the meals that we didn't get? Do we nourish ourselves or take responsibility for the places in ourselves where we feel inadequate or where we've had to overcompensate? We have to. Iyanla says that I haven't heard anyone say it quite like this, is that children are God in work clothing. Any work that you did not finish, you will experience it in your parenting. And I say that as a woman who has not birthed my own physical children. I definitely was a part of co-parenting my niece. And Lord have mercy. Ooh, did I get back some of the things that I said and did to my own mother. Ooh, Lord. And I mean, there was a point in time where she broke my heart. And I had to deal with that broken heart of feeling like there was a level of betrayal for some of the sacrifices that I made for my niece, who's like my daughter, and her be flippant about it, you know. And my sister, her mother, her biological mother, said, "Baby, you gotta let her go. You gotta let her go on and navigate. You have to grow up." And I was like, yeah, she's teaching me the places in me that need to still do some of my own work. And I did that work. And the relationship shifted. And I see that happening time and time again with my other nieces and godchildren. They are time enough for us. But y'all, it's not separate. It still is a continuation because of mother. Mother, if you look at the word mother in etymology, mother, any word that begins with M-A has a part, it really does go to the feminine. Now, this is, this is a little high science, so if I understand if for some people you're like, well, I need more of this, I need to understand this. But when you're talking about mother, it is also a part of matter, matter. I'm a matter, matter. Ma is at the source of all things. And so even for this planet, in order for this planet to heal, it has to come back to the mother. It has to honor the mother. Women have to be lifted again. And we cannot wait for them out there. It starts with us in here. This is why the work of the goddess, the divine feminine, the cosmic mother, the divine mother is so important in our work, because all women have a part in the entire planetary change. But we have to start in our own households, then expand into our family units and into our community. First, start with this. Let go of this idea of yours and mine. They're all ours. We're responsible. What if we shifted like that? Right? What if we started? We looked at things more like she's mine. I'm responsible. I'm responsible. That's what Ho'oponopono is. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Because I say that I am responsible for the world that I see, the world that I create. Now, I really do want you to think about your legacies a little bit more. If you have a thought or a comment, you can come back in to this section. My vision is to be able to create some more activities for girls. If I don't go back out and just start doing some direct work with girls, I'm really feeling that call. It's a motherly call, because I used to qualify motherhood for myself, but now I'm really much more clear about the assignment of mother that predates me, that predates my physical being. And so this is a part of the work that I'm doing. So I'm going to go through your comments and then close out this session. Keela says, nope, they don't have conflict resolution skills. Nina says, our sexuality is a part of our commerce and agency? Question. Oh, yes. Because women who have been disempowered about from their gender, there are women in the world who are having, if you have a girl in other societies, it's considered of less value than if you have a son. That's what I'm talking about, Nina. Does that make sense? Our agency is our ability to be a contribution and to express ourselves authentically, and to be able to be full in who we are at all times. Okay? Keela says, I wasn't taught to value my heart. So many of us were not taught. Many of us were taught how to guard our heart. We were taught what not to do. Keep your legs closed. We were taught all of the things not to do to navigate the world, because our parents probably came from a generation that had to survive. Just think about the Jim Crow South. That if particularly with boys, we haven't even gotten into the conversation about us and our boys, because we have some unhealthy relationship with our boys. Some of you have made your boys your men. Yeah, you've made your boys your men. So you raise your girls and you teach your girls how to survive, but you spoil your boys. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have Kathy McCoy come back in, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that with Kathy McCoy. I think we have to separate the girls and the boys in the conversation really soon. Okay? Nina has been scribing. Carol said, I thought I was being punished when I had my oldest. I was really young and she was spoiled, really spoiled and rebellious. Thank you for sharing. Carol said, I'm thankful I had a community of women who helped me. My grandma made sure of that. Thank God for the grandmothers, huh? So, I want to invite you all to continue to look at the legacies. If you're part of She Magic, I just did a piece on, well, I didn't just do it, but I just released a piece on breaking money curses. And it really is going to be a part of a larger offering. But for now, you all know that there's a way for you to participate in the She Magic offerings at $69 per coaching clinic once a month. And then there's a way for you to get a bundle package for $29 in the bundle, and all of that. So someone is asking about the Zoom link. Let me see. I'm scrolling. Oh, the Zoom link didn't work. Good. Thank you. Nobody told me. Nobody gave me any feedback. That's what I was hoping for. So I look forward to connecting to you all on the other side. Those of you who are in the Juicy You right now, we will be going higher at 9 o'clock tonight. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you on the other side.